about how the Washington Post gave the 4 Pinocchios to this lie. But then it went on to talk about how the Washington Post covered that very story all year. And they said the interesting thing about the Pinocchios was they didn't talk about their complicity in the story. For example, this year alone, the Washington Post published the terms "hands up, don't shoot" almost 700 times. So they're calling it the biggest lie of the year, and yet they covered it and gave it publicity 700 times this year. Well, keep in mind that in, March or April of this year is when we found out it wasn't true. For sure. I mean, we knew, a lot of people knew it wasn't true to begin with, but the actual Obama Justice Department report came out in March or April, and yet the Washington Post has the gall to say it's the biggest lie, but they were one of the biggest perpetuators of the lie.
What do you think about...
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Welcome to the Wrestling Mat here on WOOP FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. This is the area's only live wrestling talk show, and our guest with us here today is Tyler Wickman from the Cleveland, the legendary Tyler Wickman from the Cleveland Daily Banner. How long have you been there now, Tyler?
Let's see here. Probably since August, I guess.
Oh, so you are legendary. Or infamous, which word is more appropriate?
I'm going with infamous.
Okay, all right, sounds
well.
good.
Now, 40 years from now, Tyler, you get to be our guest on this show and tell us about your adventures as a newspaper man, like Randall Higgins today. That's coming in at 10 o'clock.
40-something years in the newspaper business, and come on in here. I think we see another stranger coming in here.
Hey, grab that microphone over on the end.
And we got the legendary Steve Loxton with us now.
Or are you infamous? We're trying to decide whether I'm infamous.
Tyler's infamous.
He's going with the infamous, too.
You know Coach Loxton, Tyler?
I don't.
This is Tyler Wickman from the Cleveland Daily Banner.
So.
Yeah, he is.
And he's worked there since August.
We're trying to get someone in training to replace Richard Roberts. We'll do that. How you doing, Steve? You guys have a good Christmas?
Oh, we did have a great Christmas.
What about you, Tyler?
I had a good one. I ate a lot of food.
Now, all your family's still here. Now, you got a brother up where?
Washington State.
What, did he make it in, or?
No.
Okay.
He Brad's working on his second family. He remarried several years ago, a younger lady, and they had a couple. He has 2 grown sons, well grown, and now he's got a couple daughters from his second wife. And
yeah, it makes life interesting.
That's right. Oh, he loves it. They're great. They came in this summer and visited.
Deb said I couldn't do that, and I didn't say I wanted to either.
Yeah, he's got his hands full, but he loves it.
Tyler, all your family here?
For the majority, I have some family in Utah right now. They're out in Salt Lake City, and today we're going to Murfreesboro after I get off here, and we're gonna have a little lunch with some of my distant cousins. So
that's good. Well, it's a good Christmas, and a lot of our teams had some good tournaments. Bradley Invitational, Bradley was able to overcome Father Ryan. Thanks goodness to a guy from Gilmer and one from Etowah. They the 220 weight class in heavyweight. Father Ryan got beat there, which probably was the difference in the tournament. Those scores, when you don't win in the finals, you don't get as many points, Steve. Well, getting there is bigger points, right?
Yeah.
How does that work? The semifinals actually give you more points?
Yeah, the semis is your biggest round as far as scoring goes. I mean, as far as one round of scoring goes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's because the reason for that is when you get to the semifinals, if you win, you go to the finals. So you sit for a while and you don't get to wrestle. Where the guys that lose that round will come back through and get to pick up consolation points through wrestling 2 and 3 more matches, depending on the size of the tournament. So you're rewarded in the semifinals with that's your biggest scoring round of the tournament.
And this scored at the Invitational, and most tournaments are about like at the state tournament.
Yeah, very similar. Right. Similar. Depends on the bracket size, but in what they used this weekend, or at the Bradley Invitational, like in the semifinals, you can get 12 points for advancement if you win. Then you get bonus points of 2 points for a pin and 1.5 points for a tech fall, extra point for a major decision. So you get a little bit of extra bonus if you beat the guy a little worse. But the advancement points are much bigger.
Right.
in
And
the-
then on usually like on Saturday morning at the state tournament, it's the consolations brings you a lot of points too. If you get guys all the way up through the consolations, getting into third or fourth place, right?
You get much less points for advancement. Like if you win in the consolation quarters, for instance, you get a point, just 1 point for
Right.
advancement versus 12 for the semifinals. But you get bonus points still. So if you pin in a consolation round, well, you get 3. And then if the next round you wrestle again, you pin again, there's 3 more points. So those add up when you got a team of 14 kids. You got maybe 7 or 8 in the consolation scoring points. So those add up.
Well, I know a couple of years ago, Cleveland beat Bradley. I think you were there.
I was there.
2 or 3 points, I think, in the finals.
Yes.
And I think on Friday was probably the worst day of wrestling you
Yeah,
had ever seen at Bradley.
it's pretty bad.
It was bad.
Yeah.
And just didn't get those 1 or 2 wins on Friday. Bradley would have won the state tournament. that
That's
year.
right. Or
So-
or another loss from Cleveland that same night. That's just the way it is.
Or if the Ravenwood guy had made weight.
he had made weight, that would have been nice.
Yeah. We didn't have good luck with Ravenwood that year,
No,
did we?
We did not. No.
Tyler, I know you got some of the rankings there. There's some, I looked through last night, and the only big change I saw, there's a couple little people. I know Joshua Laco from Bradley dropped out of the top 6.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he dropped completely out. He had a couple of losses here in the last couple of weeks, and I think that knocked him down. So, but everybody else is pretty much staying the same. I noticed that we have a couple guys. Hunter Parker's moved up a little bit.
I'm surprised Ryan McElhaney didn't move up a little bit.
I know he
He had a good week.
Yeah, OW at the tournament the other night. So Cleveland had was down at the McCauley, a tough tournament, and a lot of the Tennessee teams had trouble in that one, I think. But I think they finished 7th behind Red Bank, and I can't remember who all was in that.
Yeah, they had Woodland took the whole tournament.
Uh-huh.
McCauley finished 4th, and Red Bank was 6th, and Cleveland was 7. So, and Saudi Daisy finished at 11.
I still think Cleveland still has some injuries. I don't know if Blancett is wrestling yet. Had a concussion.
I don't know if
And
he is or not. I haven't heard.
well, he didn't at the Father Ryan Cleveland match. I went to see. He wasn't wrestling then. I don't know if he wrestled last Saturday
I
or not.
I don't think he did. I don't want
I-
to be held in the record there, but
I think he hold
I
him
think
out.
you
to the
hold him
fir-
out. Yeah, I think
first
you hold
of
him
the
out
year.
to the
I mean,
first of the year.
because the teams he needs to beat's coming up
Right.
are the Bradley teams, Walker Valley, Saudi Daisy. They'll need that. Cleveland's very young. The 6 or 7 starters against Father Ryan, so that's quite a bit. And then Colton Landers, who's still ranked number 1 at 126, good wrestler, going to do
He's
well.
Yeah, Colton's tough. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone that's going to whip him this year in this state that I've seen.
Well, that's you never know though. You get over there and some guy like a Matt Keller comes along, a little freshman comes along, beats the number 1 guy in the state, and
Yeah.
beats everybody. But that don't happen every year, does it?
No, it does. I guess I should say, I guess, I was picked to whip him this year because in wrestling, it's like you said, you never know who's going to beat who. I mean,
Right.
but I certainly would think he's the favorite any match
Well, I
where
think
he
so
faces
too.
someone in Tennessee.
Quite a few local guys. Colton, I think Blancett will be a favorite. His weight class. Blancett's at what one? I get them all confused.
I
now.
do too.
Lanson might be the 126.
120 or 126. I don't know which one it is. Of course, you got T.A. Hicks, probably a favorite, 113.
Oh yeah. think so.
Knox Fuller at 138.
Yes.
You got McElhaney, who's tough, at 126 now.
Who's ranked ahead of McElhaney?
McElhaney's at the 120.
Who's ranked ahead of him in the state? We have a state polls here anywhere.
I don't have him on me
I'm
today.
just curious.
I didn't
don't,
bring mine either.
I don't look at him much anymore. I'm just curious who's ahead of him.
I looked at him last night, but it was still the same from the.
It's pretty much
the
been the
10th.
same all year, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Then, of course, you got Brett Brown at number 1 at 95. DJ Adams ranked 3rd from Bradley. Ed Elkins has slipped into 4th now, I believe it is, which is good for him.
Yeah.
And then Donnie Byers 3rd.
Yeah, it's
So-
good if you can place those guys that are ranked. If you can place them, it's funny how I watch things change over the years with the new divisions and the small school, large school, and the private school and things. The way things changed back when I wrestled, when I coached early in my career, if you could place, if you had maybe a couple guys in the finals and you could place 3 or 4 more, you'd probably win a state title.
Right.
It was just that hard to place or to win state titles and make to the finals, and nowadays you just have to place a lot of people. Not just now. I mean, like as much, 12, 13 years ago it became that way. If you could place 7 or 8 guys, you probably were going to win the state title, but maybe not. You could put 3 or 4 in the finals
Right.
and place 7 or 8 and not win it. And that would never happen 20 years ago.
Where you had only 12 weight classes, and only 4 people placed.
And a lot more competition.
Yeah, now you have 14, and you have
It's 240
6.
something weight medals given out in the state tournament now.
and that's in one division.
That's
A total?
that's total. That's
Okay.
total medals. It used to be 48 total medals in the state of Tennessee.
Because
given
all
out.
the private and everything was
Put
together.
together, you had 12 weights, 4 places, and you had 48 medals given out. Now you have 240 something weight medals given out.
Made it a little different, and makes it harder to win now too.
And going back to the 120 we were talking about, McElhaney's in the 2 spot. Above him's Adam Fuller from Centennial High School.
Okay.
And Blancett still got his number 1 ranking in the 126. So
And where is who's our 126 in my mind?
126.
Laco.
He fell out.
Yeah, he fell out this week.
right.
Yeah, he's 126.
Yeah.
This time of year also, I know at Bradley and at a lot of other schools, they have mid-year challenge matches. Now, this is not true of every school, is it?
No, coaches do them different. Some coaches do them weekly.
Uh-huh.
Some it depends on the coach how he wants to do it. I never did them weekly. I
You did them twice a year, right?
twice a year. That's right.
So Bradley will do theirs this week
Yes.
coming up.
Yeah, they're in practice now to this moment.
Right.
Because that after Christmas they're coming back and you can get right back at it, get the weight back down, and start the process again for a second semester.
So I know at Bradley there's some movement in the weight class. I think you'll see Trey Hicks, who's going to be at 108, gets 2 pounds, is probably going to challenge for 106. Tough kid.
Oh, yeah, he's tough.
No doubt about it. Then you have understand that Austin Matthews is going to go 145. He had been on his descent plan and was a pound off when he weighed in for 160 at the tournament.
Right.
So he's going to go for 145, challenge Jordan Moats for 145, and then I don't know who's going to come in at 60. I can't think of the kid's name.
I can't recall.
That challenged him. Henley.
Oh, Henley Hedrick. Yeah, that's right.
Henley Hedrick will come in. So, I think that gives a little more strength if there's improvement in the lineup.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know how Cleveland does it, or do you know how Cleveland does it, or did it, or?
I really don't. I don't know what they do. I've never asked. I expect it's pretty similar to what Bradley does, but I don't know. Some coaches' philosophy is I've talked to coaches about this years ago, and we not debate it, but just discuss it a little bit. And the idea was, keeps the kids on their toes. The varsity guy gives the JV guys a reason to come to practice and a reason to hang in there, and because you can challenge every week. And wrestling's got a lot of pressure to it. And I always said that once a kid wins his weight class and challenge matches, he needs to be able to mentally relax a little bit and just think about getting better, getting his weight off, keeping on top of things, improvement, and not every single week this kid that's just right behind me. I'm not much better than him, but I've got to defend this guy every single week in a challenge match. And it takes up time from practice. And I just think you need to be able to relax, think about, getting better, and then give the kid another chance to challenge you at Christmas break.
Right.
And that's just the way I always did it. It's the way Coach Jackson did it before me. And I just think it's a more effective way than always being nervous about getting challenged again this week.
Tyler, I know a lot of schools I see them still in weight descent. A lot of the guys, the starters, who we think would be the starters, are not at weight or have been wrestling at an upper weight. I think Cleveland may be a little of that. Do you have any sense of that?
that they're got a few guys bumping up after the break.
No, bumping down.
Bumping down?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they've been on a weight descent plan and,
Right.
and some injury plans too.
Right. Well, like you said, Blancett's still out. And they have a few guys that once they get this week off before they come back to play against Bradley, I think they'll be ready to go where they're in the right weight class and have a lot of their guys that are on the injured plan back into the the full lineup.
Bradley Cleveland, old battle coming up within less than a week or a little over a week.
Early January sometime.
January 7th, I
7th.
believe, is when it is. It's a Thursday,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, and at Bradley this year.
Mhm.
The interesting match coming up. Bradley ranked number 1, Cleveland number 2, still in the state lineups. Then you have Saudi's down about 5th place or something like that. Then you have Beach and Hall, a few names that we've seen. William Blount was number 8. Bradley Hanley took care of those the other day.
Yeah, it seems like it drops off a little bit there once you get past the first couple, 2 or 3. It's fine. Not being disrespectful. Just I watched them wrestle, and you see the
Yeah.
results and things. It seems to be the a little drop off there.
Yeah, Saudi's at 5, and Beach and Halls take up the 3 and 4 spots.
Right. I've seen Hall wrestle some individuals and everything, and they're not bad, but I didn't see them being 3rd place. From what I saw.
I agree.
But overall, as team strength, individual tournaments are a little hard to measure them there. But you sort of look at their strength, and they didn't finish well in the tournament. So, but like I say, we took on William Blount and handled them very well.
Right.
Cleveland's had a good season so far. I think we've all got beat by Father Ryan. We all got beat by Father Ryan very big too.
Yeah. Handily.
Oh, that probably one of the. I go back to McCurchin down at McEachern.
Yeah.
I try not to remember that name. They give you one of the worst weapons I'd saw in a long time, and I think Father Ryan probably give Bradley, which is probably getting along to be a pretty good team this year. I mean, you had some studs back then.
Yeah. That was 07.
That was the days that Colin Hills was tough, and McEachern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, we go down and see Archer now, and Archer continues to be. Bradley did pretty well. Actually, Bradley did better against Archer than they did Father Ryan.
Is that right?
Yes.
I wasn't there.
Oh, yeah. It's just from about the score.
Yeah.
About the score,
Yeah.
I think that Father Ryan caught us off guard and whipped us in a couple places, and we never got off our heels.
Yeah, I think when you wrestle Father Ryan, you can't afford to get caught off guard. It's like kind of like I've preached and said about Cleveland all along, and Cleveland is young. They said they're young this year, and that's what their call has been this year. But you know what? I look at them, and that's accurate. They are young. They're a young team, and a lot of freshmen in there wrestling. But if Bradley discounts them and just thinks we already had this thing won, you're making a mistake. I've told Ben that, and he knows it. I ain't telling him anything he don't know, but. Cleveland has tradition, and they've had Bradley's number for several years, and sometimes that'll get you through some tough matches. And all it takes, in a tough dual meet is, 2 or 3 different weights. You pull off a 3-2 upset or a 4-3 upset or something, and all of a sudden, boom, you're right in the match. And it comes down to the last couple matches, and some kid comes off his back and gets a pin, and pretty soon here's your upset. I've seen it a lot of times. And if anyone on Bradley's side discounts Cleveland like this one's already in the bag, you're making a mistake. There's no doubt about it.
It's going to make a difference too when it's you're not at one of these tournaments where it's just a bunch of matches going on. It's just one match, and you're going to have, I'm sure, a sellout crowd. For at Bradley's gym, and the spotlight's going to be on these guys, and it makes a whole world of a difference too when it's like that. The pressure is really going to be set on these guys. So it depends who handles the pressure well is what better than just what kind of positions you get in as well on the mat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Cleveland because like the past 3 or 4 years, they've been the on paper the favorite to win it. And then when you're the favorite to win it, boy, you put some fans in the seats. And there's been a whole lot of blue and white in the gym the last 3 or 4 years, and a lot of loud fans and on both sides. And he had the incident about the little firecracker things a couple of years ago, and everybody's really fired up to come see Cleveland with Bradley. I'm curious now that Bradley's better on paper. I'm curious to see if Cleveland brings as big a crowd this year and they get behind the Raiders and come in and create that same type of environment when their back's against the wall a little bit, so to speak. And I think they will. They've got a good tradition over there, and I think they'll bring a lot of fans in, and it's going to be exciting and fun to watch.
Being an old Bear, Steve, didn't take much. I'm an old bear too.
That's right.
I'm an older bear than you
I'm an
are.
old bar.
It didn't take us much to get up for Cleveland for anything, tiddlywinks or whatever.
No.
If we're playing Cleveland, we're ready.
That's right. That's right. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of athletics.
And last year, Cleveland definitely was better on paper than us, and Bradley beat them in the regular season.
Yep.
Caught them a little off guard.
Yep.
I think the best thing that happened to Bradley was getting beat by Father Ryan.
Do you?
I really do. I think that we'd come off a big win off of Baylor.
Yeah.
And Baylor was been a strong team that we hadn't been able to beat here in the last couple of years.
Yes.
We beat them, and we may have read the papers too much. Tyler may have said too many good things about us, and maybe we just didn't. And then when they got ahead and they beat Fuller head to head, I think we got on the heels, and I just seen the team just sort of didn't wrestle like they should.
Yeah.
And Father Ryan had a lot to do with it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I wasn't there. I didn't hear Ben's speeches. I didn't see the guys' demeanor before the matches, but I do know this. I know that everything flows downhill from the top, and Pat Simpson at Father Ryan is a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good man. He's a great coach. He's been around for a very long time. And when you watch his kids wrestle, they wrestle a certain style. They wrestle they're going to be prepared. They're tough on all three positions, bottom, top, and neutral. And they're just a hard-nosed group of kids. And, anytime I faced a Father Ryan team, you better be ready to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and don't overlook them at all, because like I said, it all begins at the top. And he creates an environment there, a winning attitude, and their technique is flawless. They're in great shape, and they're just a quality team. So I hope, and I think Ben was probably ready to wrestle them. I think they were just a little better that day.
I agree. I think they were better. I thought we could compete a little better, but we did. Tyler, have you got to watch Walker Valley any this year?
I got to watch Walker Valley in the Ooltewah. It's like a 5-way meet like 2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And they took on Ray County and McMinn County, and they won pretty handily. But like he told me after the matches, Coach Morris said that they're an injured team right now. They have a few guys out, but they also have a few guys. Jalen Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what weight class he's in exactly, but he's a heck of a wrestler. They have a few guys that are up there in the state rankings, but they're not the Cleveland Bradley maybe. What am I trying to say here? They're not the Cleveland Bradley powerhouses right now, but it's like they're working their way, in that direction right now. But I think, they play anybody outside of Cleveland Bradley, they win. They win their matches pretty easily. It's just Cleveland and Bradley have so much more they're bringing to the table, than Walker Valley right now. And they're a younger program too.
Walker Valley, of course, had to come in a new school 12 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Entered into a district with Bradley, Cleveland, Soddy Daisy, Ooltewah, which at the time were the dominant teams in the state. So that's going to be tough to come in and say, we're going to take on the big dogs in the regular season. And just to get out of the district, we got to beat Bradley, we got to beat Cleveland, we got to beat Soddy Daisy, we got to beat Ooltewah, and not many people who was doing that.
Well, it's a hard district to get out of,
Oh, well, yeah, it's true.
I mean, even for Cleveland and Bradley, it's a hard one to get out of sometimes, because you got to play each other. But you got to give your a round of applause to Yost and Ben Smith as well, because like he was saying earlier about Father Ryan's coach, put him on the right start there. Ben and Yost will have both of their teams ready to go for the January 7th matchup against each other. Neither one of them like to lose, and both of them really know how to coach, their team.
They have an advantage. The coaches have an advantage. I had the same advantage when I coached there, and it's an environment you create. But Walker Valley doesn't have the advantage of they have you have a couple good wrestlers like this year. You mentioned a couple good wrestlers they have, for instance, are quality wrestlers, and the problem you have with that is they don't have a lot of competition in the room to push them. You got a coach. Of course, you got Coach Raines that can wrestle around with them. And, and he's a heck of competition for any of them.
Yes.
But, over to the other two schools, you put guys in a group, you wrestle groups, and, group 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you wrestle with 3 guys in your group there, and all 3 can be top quality wrestlers, state level, ranked 1, ranked 2, ranked 3, really good. We're over at Walker Valley, a lot of schools in a similar boat. You may have a really, really great kid, but no one's there to push him. And so when you just run through guys in practice, you don't get pushed and pushed and pushed. You don't get as good as quickly and you kind of tend to peak out at a certain point where you just need that level of competition. That's an advantage that Bradley, to their credit, and Cleveland, to their credit, have created by getting a lot of good people in the room because of their tradition, because of the product they're putting out there or whatever. But still, it is tougher, I think, for teams like Walker Valley.
And the kids club sure does help.
Yeah,
bring
that's what I was going to say. The pipeline of kids that are coming through, you give the advantage to, Cleveland and Bradley there too. And in front of me right now, I have the Tennessee middle school state rankings that came out last week, and I think the higher calling team has just a bazillion people up in here. I mean, they have 3 or 4 guys in the same weight class that are ranked. And then, Bradley Pride, wrestling club also has a few kids in there too. So,
Yeah, I think that's, but with that said, it's not like anyone just gave, them that pipeline. I mean, Cleveland does have an advantage, in my opinion, because of the finances they have, the money, the resources they have, the building they have. It's a very inviting place to come, and they have a good system over there working. But when you're a wrestling coach, showing double legs and switches, that's part of the scenario you have to work with. But you also have to create that pipeline. You also have to create your kids club and work on your kids club and get the right people in place and support it and go out and get to know kids in the community. I mean, there's a lot more to it. It doesn't just genie blink in, all of a sudden you have this great pipeline of kids. It's something that's, as a head coach, that's part of your job, is to create that. And if it's not working and clicking, then you get different people in there and you do what you have to do because you realize that's a big part of your program. But when that is created, that kids club is created, it's a huge asset. But it doesn't just happen. You have to work at it and have a plan to get it in there.
Some of the big powerhouses in Middle Tennessee, do they have the same feeder program like we do here, or the kid programs? Do they have that same type of activity also? Yes,
over the years, that's begun to happen more and more.
Are they following examples of Cleveland and Bradley?
I think so. Yes.
If they were smart, they would.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's been a long time. If you want to win a state championship, you come through Cleveland and maybe dip into Chattanooga every once in a while. Saudi Daisy would get us every once in a while. But I try to make Steve feel old every day, but
I feel old on my own.
I wish I felt as old as you did. You watched Jake Oaks wrestle at Saudi Daisy, and of course you coached Ben Smith, right?
I did. Both. I remember both very well. Ben was a 99 graduate, and Jake Oaks was 02, and I remember them very, very well. I remember Jake Oaks as a freshman. I remember wrestling him and Matt Keller because Jake Oaks was this phenomenal freshman I kept hearing about, and actually got to put those two on the mat together as freshmen and wrestle, both phenoms when they were young. And so I've watched him his whole career as a wrestler and as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Of course, Ben Smith, Brian Blackman down at Ottawa.
Yep.
One of your
Brian wrestled for me, and he was an 04 grad, and Ben was a 99 grad, like I said. And
Hank up at Walker Valley, his assistant coach up there.
Yeah. Al Morris is head coach at Tullahoma. He was a 99. He was an 01 grad. Al Morris Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch those guys. It's kind of fun to watch them spread out. And and what's really funny is when you're a coach, especially young in my career, there's so many techniques in wrestling, as you know, and I'll be in my living room like I did for thousands and thousands of nights, writing out practice the night before, and you get to some technique and you go, I'm doing this counter, that counter, and you go, what do I call that? How do I get this through to the kids so they'll understand what I'm talking about? Before you go deep elbow single, when you really extend your arm, and I would think, well, it's kind of like when you put your arm through the sleeve of a coat, how you put and you really get your arm really long to get it through there, like before you throw your half in wrestling, get that arm long, get it in there. And so I said, I'm going to call that sleeving it. Sleeve the arm. I just kind of making stuff up, so to speak, certain terms that the kids will grasp. And I did that for years and kind of just created these little terms, to make it easier for them to understand. Well, then I'm at the tournament last weekend, and I'm walking past, and I'm helping to run the tournament, and I heard an assistant coach from Tullahoma, who I don't even know, talking, and I heard him telling the kid, sleeve it, sleeve it, sleeve it, you know, and that's kind of a little vicarious thrill I get, you know, going, wait a minute, that's my word from, 15 years ago. That was my little word that I came up, because, of course it went through Al, and Al went there and he called it that in practice, and the coaching staff call it that in practice. And the brands, there's a move called cement job. Some call it, well, I always called it a brands because the Brands brothers at Iowa were very good at doing it. So a McElravy duck. That's a boot scoop. I call it a McElravy because I like to give guys credit that do it so well on that level. But I'll hear other schools calling it that sometimes and go, that's kind of cool. Because, it just kind of trickled down through my coaches that I coached.
Steve, I always liked to watch you coach because you were very quiet.
Yeah.
Usually. And then it was nice.
Yeah,
when they did something good, that was it. And I'm thinking, okay, when you've trained them well, that's all you have to say. They know what to do. And I always thought, oh, he got a nice.
That's right.
Well, I heard Steve say one time, by the time you get there on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, it's too late to start coaching then, isn't it?
Yeah, the hay's in the barn by then.
Yeah, you really.
Yeah, I was never and listen, I'm not knocking any other coach. That's how they want to coach is up to them, and that's fine. But I wrestled in college, and I had a coach that would come out there before the match and really just put us through the ringer on the mat. A lot of drilling and this and that. Okay, and as he would do that, he would walk amongst us with his arms folded, and he would walk and like the great shepherd of the sheep, and he'd walk through. And I'm not knocking him; he's a good guy, but that's just the way he did things. I tell you, when Baylor came down and wrestled us a couple weeks ago, before the match, they warmed up for 20 to 25 minutes out there, and the coach walks amongst the people, and he, I think Coach Phillips used to do that a lot. He'd walk amongst them and give them and that's fine, but that's just not my style. I never did that. I always figured, my job is in that wrestling room to do the job, prepare these kids to wrestle. And when it's time to go to the wrestling match, it's not my time to shine. It's my time to get myself out of the way and let these kids do what they've sacrificed their time and energy and their social life and eating and all the things. They've paid their dues, and now it's time to shine. And so I think my job was to prepare them, and then when it comes time for the big show, get out of the way, let them have the spotlight completely. And I sit over there on the side, and I do my coaching with, as she said, pretty calm manner the way I coached, most of the time. There was a moment.
Okay, I'm going to bring up there's a few.
When I needed to get up, I would get up. But I was kind of just want to stay out of the way pretty much and let them do it. And it's like you said, there's not much I can do. There's a whole lot of that yelling and going on. I always said that a lot of the I would do gestures to them. I would look, point them elbow. Don't let them get your elbow. Keep your head up. And they knew what my little signals were, my little signs were. But as far as yelling at them and telling them, like whole sentences. When he grabs your leg, don't let him get. They don't know what you're saying. They can't hear you.
Ow, what?
They got your headgear on. It's loud, and I think that's more for the coach to ease his soul. Like he thinks he's doing some good there, because the kids, they might catch on a couple things you're telling them on the mat, but their preparation came the last week in practice, and the last month, and the last year.
I always like it when the coaches demonstrate on each other in the corner. They'll stand and they've got the.
I've done that.
Steve's, you knew when Steve was upset, he had this little notebook about this big, and he made a helicopter out of it. He would throw it up in the air, and it'd fly around there. You knew he was mad.
And he'd go behind him, though.
He hoped.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully it didn't go out on the
I've
mat.
seen a lot of these, some of these coaches in the area, out there yelling at their kids, to do something, and you see their faces, and they're not looking over, writing down, notes and stuff. They're out there looking into the crowd like in another zone, another planet, trying to figure out their next move, not based off what somebody's saying on the sideline, they're out there for survival. They're like, I got to make the next move here. So
yeah, that's why we drill and drill and drill to ingrain it in your brain. So when you're out there, you can actually put it in practice, because trying to teach someone while they're on the mat in a dual meet, that's not going to happen more than likely.
Devin, our son, wrestled for Steve. He was there. Well, I should say more than anything else. Good kid, but it's amazing that if you go with him still today, sit in a wrestling at a match, he will tell you everything they need to do instantly in his head. Now, his brain wouldn't allow him to do it, but he knew what to do. I mean, that's how much drilling went through, and that's true in all the wrestling rooms. It's just that when you feel pressure here, you go opposite direction.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest attributes that a coach can have is, and of course, when you go over it, you do it with their individual wrestler, but with the whole team also in practice, is the ability to fix problems, technique problems. I think it's anybody can look at a book and show technique. if you have a basic wrestling knowledge and show basic technique of how to do this or that, but then the coach that can break down the technique and figure out what a kid did wrong, why it didn't work, and then break it down to the whole team and say, look, this is why it didn't work. You've got to get a wizard here. You've got to post. You've got to get your hips above his hips or whatever. I think that's when good coaching comes in. And that's why guys like your son picked up on stuff and they actually could, fix problems themselves.
It's a completely different atmosphere than the basketball world, where you have the coaches, drawing up plays on the sidelines. It's a whole different sport, when you go there for the coaching aspect of it. A lot of the coaching stuff, like you said, happens, not in the match nights, weeks before, months before the season starts, and when you get these kids in the weight room and stuff. In basketball, it's like, this guy might drop a play or he might make some substitutions, with his players, and, he made, the right decision to win the game. But wrestling wise, you can yell a few things out there, but it's got to happen before you come into those matches, like you had said earlier.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just the coaches, and I won't pick on any of them, that it's just their way of staying involved instead of just sitting there. Steve was relaxed and wrote, but
he was relaxed on the outside.
Ben is sort of the nervous type, and this is not an insult to Ben, but he's sort of leaning and turning. And it's like the two Baylor coaches that used to lean.
No, yeah.
Well, they could lean further than two. What was the old man from
Coach Morgan and Shaq Van Dusen?
Van Dusen. Yeah. He could lean, and I thought he was going to fall out of his chair. He'd lean, and he's about laying down over there, and I'm going. And of course, I catch myself for once in a while on the stand, leaning to the left or right, pulling, and I yell, elbow.
Yeah. Ron, did we hear any more from the child that got hurt the other day? The young man that got hurt, who had a concussion the other day.
Concussion, yeah. I didn't hear anything else, but they said he was doing all right.
Thank you, Tyler.
Tyler, you got to run here. Tyler, we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
Steve, we got a interview here we want to play of I got Coach Morris and Coach Smith. Let's see if we can get one of them to play here.
Hi, I'm Scott Webb, and I'm joined with Walker Valley head wrestling coach Alan Morris. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. It's almost Christmas break.
Yeah, that's never a bad thing, that's for sure. Let's get everybody caught up on the wrestling season. Obviously, the Mustangs are off to a pretty good start. Just talk a little bit about your season.
Oh, yeah, we started off pretty good. We're still in the process of getting our full lineup together all at one time yet. We have failed to do so for various reasons, but that happens early in the season. But we've had a good mixture of experienced wrestlers and new wrestlers that are, they're improving, and we've been fairly successful. We'd like to have done a little better, but we'll always say that.
Yeah, I guess no coach is ever happy, but talk about some of the things you think you've done well and some things you'd like to see your team improve upon.
Very first thing, as far as the success we've had so far, we're 11-3 is dual meet record, and we've really feel like we let two of those just kind of get away from us, but that's not a bad start with our lineup. Like I said, mixture of young guys and experienced guys. We finished third in all the tournaments we've been in so far. We'd like to see a little improvement there, but still, it's good. There's a lot more teams behind us in those tournaments, so but we feel good about that. And now what we're concentrating on is finishing strong. We've got East. Actually, we have McMinn County and Ray County Thursday, tomorrow night, at Ottawa. We're going down there and wrestle those two teams. And then Friday we finish up before the Christmas break with East Ridge at East Ridge. So we're going to try to finish on a strong note, and we're going to take a little time off around the holidays, let the guys heal up, spend some time with their families, let the coaches do the same, and, we'll start back after after Christmas weekend, and we'll get back to work, get ready for the second half of the season.
Right. I've always wondered as a coach with a big break in between, in the middle of the season, good thing, bad thing. I know it kind of gives you like a beginning of the year to kind of see where you are. Then you can come back and really start dialing it in for region matches and things like that.
Yeah, it's terrible. It really does make coaches, crazy. But here's the thing: it's the nature of our sport. It's in the wintertime. It's during the holidays. We, families first. We need to make sure everyone gets to do their family stuff. However, we expect those guys to be dedicated enough to do some of the work, try to maintain the conditioning, try to keep their weight where they need it to be during the holidays. And that's, that the maturity of the wrestler will dictate, what they do. And when they come back, they put on 10 pounds. They can't tell me they haven't been eating a lot or they haven't been working out a lot or what. It rarely does it work that way. So, but we take the time, and really in this year with us, with some of the sickness and injuries and stuff, it gives us a little bit of opportunity to heal, which is good. But you do concern yourself a little bit about where you've been. How do you maintain? And again, it goes back to the individual wrestlers. I actually have a schedule they have. I've given them, and they'll look at off days, and I'll start getting calls. Hey, can you open the room? Can you do? Well, I could, but I want them to take the time to, like I said, to rest and heal, and I need my family time, and my coaches need their family time. But if they want to, they'll find a way to get it done.
Well, first of all, I'm absolutely in favor of recharging the batteries over the break. Secondly, there's a distinct possibility that I myself will definitely be overweight when this holiday season comes back. But I digress. Coach, just a couple standouts, a couple guys that you have really kind of at least lived up to your expectations so far this year, and how their season is kind of going.
Well, I'm going to start off with Jalen Martin. He's a senior 182-pounder for us. He actually is only one loss on a season. I don't know if he's something like 13-1. And he might be a little more than that, but his early loss was really, I'm going to put it on him. He's winning a match pretty big, and like I said, it was the first or second match of the season. His condition was not where it needed to be, and he pretty much gassed out and ended up losing that match. But he's had a fantastic season. He was champion at the Ooltewah tournament, and like I said, other than one loss, he's won all his matches, so he's done a very good job. And hopefully he'll be one of them guys I was talking about, maintaining his conditioning or improving it, and just being ready to go the second half. Also, Joe Munoz. Joe has one loss on the year to defending state champion and by decision. So, and he's been at 138. It's possible that he's going to be dropping a weight class. So he's had a great first half. My heavyweight, CJ Schwartz, had a great season up until he tweaked his knee, and that was his only loss by injury default. The match actually just started, so there was no score in anything going on in the match. He just tweaked his knee and has been out for a while. We're going to get him back this week, and so those three. I mean, I start naming names, I'm leaving someone out, of course. That's the way it always is. But several of our guys, Michael Gregory is another one I'd like to mention. I think he's only got one loss on the year as well. So, and there's probably a few more. Zane Smith, Chandler Davis, all wrestling tough and doing good things for us. And hopefully, like I said, we'll keep it rolling after the Christmas break.
Yeah, just real quick, after Christmas break, got some big matches coming up. Just kind of preview a little bit of that stuff going on.
Our first match back is actually January 5th, and we'll be hosting Ooltewah. And then on the 7th, I believe we have Saudi Daisy at home, and they're a top 10 program. And then January 9th, we host the Walker Valley Duels here at Walker Valley. We have 8 teams that'll be participating in it, and that'll be our first week. So when we get back, we're coming. We're going full steam ahead. So we better be ready.
Yeah, no rest for the weary. Coming out of the break, you got to jump right in and get after it.
Exactly. So we'll probably have about a week of practice under our belts when we come back. So we'll get started, like I said, the Monday after Christmas, and we'll practice through that week, and then the next week we'll be going at it.
Well, good luck on the second half of your season. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. Wrestling doesn't get a lot of coverage and stuff, and I just wanted to, thank you for, taking the time and talk a little wrestling with me.
Oh, absolutely. That's Walker Valley head wrestling coach Alan Morris.
Coming out of Bradley Invitational, what are your thoughts on where your team is at now at this point of the season?
My thoughts are, I believe we're in a pretty good spot right now. We're halfway through the season. I don't want to say we're through the hardest part of our season, we're through the busiest part of our season, if that makes sense. The Baylors, the Father Ryans, the McCaulleys, the out-of-state travel, a lot of that has come to an end. So really the first part of the season has kind of been kind of a grind on these guys, because we're going Monday, compete Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3-4 weekends in a row. And, that's hard on these guys as far as weight cuts concerned. Mentally, it's a bit of a challenge, but now we can settle in and we can get to practices in, and we're competing once, maybe twice a week, getting into that district and region schedule, looking forward to the off season. But as far as where I think we're at, we're in a good spot. After Cleveland duels, it was kind of hard to gauge where we would be. Mentally, we go from extreme high, beat Baylor, to an extreme low, get beat pretty badly by Father Ryan, and then we rebound with William Blount, decent team, beat them pretty handily, and then we get a revenge victory over Father Ryan, and that sounds good and all and well, but they were a little bit. They had a couple starters at home. We've got a couple potential second half of the season starters out, but the effort, the intensity, the fight picked up throughout the tournament. We had a great semis and a great finals round. The guys are on break right now. Their weights get to go up by 2 pounds. I'm giving them a 6-day break. Go home, see your family, rest, recover, feel good about yourselves. And my phone keeps blowing up. So did my assistant coach is blowing up with kids wanting to get in the room. So I think we're in a good spot. But it's hard to tell. But everything that I've got in me as far as experience and just a gut feeling is concerned, I feel good about where we're at. We're not where we need to be, but we're getting for where we need to be in middle of December, into December, heading into the stretch of the off season or the postseason. I feel pretty good.
Right, and you kind of answered this last question for me right here. Is what's next on the schedule for you guys, and what will your team be doing to get prepared for that matchup? I think, is it Cleveland that's on the 7th?
We've got a tri-meet with East Hamilton and Ray County at home on the 5th. Those are both district opponents. And then on the 7th, we turn around and we wrestle Cleveland at home. Prior to that, the 2nd of January, we will be up at Tennessee High School in Bristol for a one-day invitational. We normally go to Halls the 3rd weekend of January, but I replaced that with this tournament up in Tennessee High, just because we may have some new faces in the lineup, and an invitational early in the season, early in that second half of the season, to kind of not necessarily feel good about yourself, but to see where you're at. We're going to see a lot of Virginia, North Carolina teams, and a lot of Upper East Tennessee teams. Right. So it'll kind of be for anybody new to the lineup or anybody that descended down into the lineup, it'll be a good welcome to the lineup tournament. And then after that, we go right into region competition, which is, obviously important for seeding criteria in the off season, dual wise and individual wise. So we'll slow down a bit. We don't compete many Tuesdays in January, so that we can have a good Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practice leading into a big match on Thursday with a Cleveland or a Saudi or an Ottawa type team. But really right now we want to recover, stay healthy. Practice is really valuable for us this time of year, because sometimes I feel like practices, your practice is supposed to be harder than your matches and your competition. And as we try to peak, and I hate using that word peak, but it is true. Teams get hot at the right times in all kinds of sports. But as we head toward postseason conditioning, for us to have 2 or 3 days, 4 days of practice in a row leading up to a competition is really valuable. So that's kind of what we're looking forward to right now.
Right. And how do you keep these guys, focused over the holidays? You're going to have Christmas, you're going to have New Year's Eve, you're going to have New Year's Day, and all the families are going to want to take trips and stuff, obviously. It's just part of how the life cycle works here. But how do you keep these guys focused and keep them in shape over the break?
I think that wrestlers are by nature usually and supposed to be intrinsically motivated. So I think that a lot of guys You know, whether you open the practice room or not, you know, the road is always open. The YMCA is usually always open. You know, when you give them a break, and all good coaches, in my opinion, communicate well with their families and with the kids. You know, my parents knew coming into this wrestling season that there were going to be 5 to 6 days where they were going to have off, completely off. Now, there would be open mat and open room opportunities, but they were going to be off so that they could plan their family trips around it.
Yeah,
so hopefully when we come back into mandatory practice starting on Saturday and Monday for the different levels of our team, hopefully we won't have a whole lot of issues, and we communicate pretty well, and I think we got a great set of parents. I got to brag on them. I've only had one family request a couple extra days because they're traveling out of town for a family vacation, and you know, of course you got to work with people like that. And but as far as being motivated, man, you know, a lot of times wrestling is such a hard sport and it's such a dynamic sport that come the end of the Bradley Invitational, a lot of times the kids are ready for a break from me and the staff, as are we with them. You know, so when you show them that you got a little bit of heart and a little bit of compassion, and you give them a couple days off to recover and to let the weight, you know, of course, you know, the 2-pound growth allowance comes into effect. So when you give them some time off, a lot of times it's much earned and much deserved, and it shows the kids that, hey man, you got a heart. You're not just going to grind them out over the break. When, you know, everybody's family's in town, you want to be spending time with those that you love and those that love you. And, you know, so a lot of times, you know, if the environment around your program is healthy and you're providing a good example for your kids, they're going to know that, look, hey, just because the room's closed, just because we're not mandatory have to come in, you know, the examples that we've seen in the program and the tradition that comes before says that just because you're off doesn't mean, you know, you're off on your own. And, and you know, and I'm seeing some good social media chatter from my kids. I'm hearing some good feedback from my boys that, you know, they're out getting stuff done as far as my varsity level guys. We had a JV tournament on Monday in Dalton, Georgia. We had a JV tournament yesterday in Cleveland. So my JV freshman squad's been active. They'll be off until Monday, mandatory-wise. But, you know, the break is good because it gives them a break from you and them from you. But it also kind of recharges that battery so that when Monday hits and everything's mandatory again, they're ready to go. You know, and at least that's what you hope. you know, I don't, you know, I've taken a couple of days off to get some shopping done, but my kids know, and it was the example Turner Jackson set for Steve Logsdon, Steve Logsdon set for me, you know, that, you know, I know that just because, the kids know just because we're off doesn't mean Coach Smith's off. You know, I mean, I'm going to be running. You know, they know through the example set from 25 years of thick Bradley wrestling tradition history that we're going to be doing something, and if we're doing something, we expect them to do something. Now, we may not be there holding their hand, but we hope that they do something. And I think that they will. So.
Well, it sounds like everything's going good, and you guys have been doing a good job to this point, and it's always good to talk to you, and I hope you guys have a good Christmas and a good New Year's, and we'll chat sometime soon.
Yeah, same to you, man. Y'all have a Merry Christmas.
All right, thanks, Coach Smith.
Steve, that was Coach Smith and Coach Morris, two guys you know very well.
I know them both.
Talked about you and Turner setting some traditions there, and I know you, a lot of things I heard you tell those young guys were, you know, try to keep working out, but also to be good citizens. I really like that and appreciate that from your program. My son going through your program, that I think that was important, telling those young men, you know, that we want to beat the devil out of everybody in here, but be a good, straightforward citizen.
No, yeah, I agree. It's you know, down the line, no one's going to really care if you were ever a good wrestler or if you could take a guy down or whatever, but the kind of person you are and your character comes with you for the rest of your life, and that becomes who you are and what your reputation is and the legacy you leave behind. You can leave a legacy as being a good wrestler, and I think that's a good thing, I guess, to be hard-nosed and tough-minded. But, boy, the kind of person you are is going to carry with you for the next, you know, 60 or 70 years, and that's what, you know, I always try to stress to the guys. Is a lot. Wrestling happens to be the vehicle that we use, you know, to teach those life lessons and character and things like that. But if we were teaching band or the theater or whatever, I hope we would do the same type things to help these kids become good men. You know, we used to say, you know, Bradley Wrestling's, you know, turning young men into good men, and I hope that's true.
So when are you going to be back to wrestling weight?
Oh, July 1st.
167.
Yes, sir. I'm making my high school weight.
Goodness, I weighed 167 when I was 3. I was born on March 16th, 17th, and 18th. I was a big kid starting out. Steve, thank you a lot. Hope you come in next week. Not much wrestling activity this weekend. Everybody's just coming back from the holidays.
Challenge
They'll
matches.
probably be practicing challenge matches, and then starting next week, it starts getting real for the district and region type here, and we're midway through.
Yeah, this is it. This is your big push. Your first semester kind of sets you up, and then this second semester, this is where the money is.
Right. And it's important in the district that you do have to win your district to take on the proper challenge. The top 4 teams in the region will fight for the duels. Is that correct?
Right.
So if you're number 1 here, you take on the number 2 from the other district.
The other district.
And vice versa. So we're in, which 2 are we? Were we in Saudi, or they keep changing these
They
around?
keep changing. I don't know. I suppose we're still inside.
We're Saudi Bradley, then Cleveland Walker Valley will be that, and that's usually been the 4 teams in the region. It doesn't mean Ooltewah can't slip in, or some of the other teams, but I think pretty good chance. Bradley's beat Walker Valley once. Beat Saudi Daisy once over at the duels. Not a true match. They forfeited out the end of it and sort of just went on and didn't mean anything at that point in time.
Right.
So saving herself. Cleveland comes up next, not this Thursday, but next Thursday at Bradley High School. If you've never watched a high school wrestling match, this is probably a great atmosphere to come watch it. It'll be a big crowd. It'll be a lot of excitement for those young freshmen coming in from Cleveland. If you've never been to a Bradley wrestling match, just when they start the match, there's some intimidation being planned right off the bat.
Yeah.
There's a choreographed entrance, music and lights and everything going on. And so part of the show.
It is.
But it's part of the psych out. Going to Bradley High School, if you're a girls basketball team and walking in and seeing all the things of Jim Smitty in that arena, growing up with Jim Smitty being there when I was younger, schools were intimidated when they come to play Jim Smitty. I think the same thing happened with Bradley Wrestling now too. Hey guys, if I can find the music here, I never have the right thing ready at the right time. Anyway, we're going to be here next week, and we're going to get our predictions next week of who is going to win the Cleveland Bradley match. Steve, you got your picks ready?
I do not. I need to look at them and see exactly who matches up with whom and make a prediction. And
Could I ask you who you probably favor?
I'm thinking maybe the black and gold. I'm not, but I think.
When we can't win, we favor them, right?
That's right.
Hey, folks, we'll see you next week here on the Wrestling Mat.